Hi, welcome to another video. So, we now have three new models being pushed heavily for coding agents: Qwen 3.7 Max, Gemini 3.5 Flash, and GPT-5.5. All three promise to build apps, use tools, and handle longer agentic coding work. But after testing them, I think one of them is clearly the most interesting option here. And surprisingly, it is Qwen 3.7 Max. So, let's get right into it. Qwen 3.7 Max is Alibaba's new flagship agent model. Gemini 3.5 Flash was launched by Google at Google I/O, and GPT 5.5 is OpenAI's new model for agentic coding work. Also, a quick correction from my earlier GPT 5.5 testing video. At that time, I said it was not available through the API. GPT 5.5 is now available through the API as well. Now, rather than looking at company benchmarks, I tested practical visual coding tasks. And to be clear, I use these through different agent environments, so this is not a completely isolated raw model benchmark, but that is also the actual experience you get when you use these models every day. The first comparison is an elevator simulator. I asked the models to create multiple floors, 3 elevators and passengers with destination floors, where every elevator can only take one person at once. So it tests logic, animation, and front-end quality. Gemini 3.5 Flash was not good here. Inside anti-gravity, the camera view was wonky, the animation did not feel polished, and the final output did not look frontier level. The worst part is that it took more than 5 minutes. This is supposed to be a Flash model, so speed should be one of the major upsides. But in this test, it was neither the best nor the fastest. GPT 5.5 kind of worked, but it still had the same front-end problem that I have seen with previous GPT models. It used that generic card-style UI. The simulation flickered too much, and overall, it did not feel polished. I do think GPT 5.5 can be capable for debugging and harder engineering tasks, but when I ask it to make an app that should look good, it still often feels off. Then we have Qwen 3.7 Max. I tested it through OpenCode, and it finished the elevator simulator in about 2 minutes. More importantly, the generation was genuinely good. The elevators worked, the people were spawned properly, the simulation made sense, and the UI looked clean. So, on this task, Qwen was faster than Gemini Flash and much better visually than both Gemini and GPT 5.5. The next test was a Three.js contact lens case. I asked the models to build a 3D contact lens case that opens when clicked. Gemini 3.5 Flash basically failed this task for me. The simulation did not work properly and the generation was not useful. GPT 5.5 was a bit better. It did create a case, and clicking it opened the cap, but it opened in a weird direction and did not really look correct. Qwen 3.7 Max nailed this one as well. The model looked right and the interaction made sense. I also tested Qwen on a more proper agentic project. I gave it an Expo React Native app and asked it to build a good-looking movie tracker. It finished in around 4 to 5 minutes and the result was really very good. The UI felt coherent and the search worked smoothly. The thing I liked most was that it stayed focused. It did not make random tool calls or start rewriting unrelated parts of the project. It simply did the task. And for coding agents, that matters a lot. Now, let's talk about the actual environments. Qwen worked extremely well for me in OpenCode and Hermes. It was fast and focused. Gemini 3.5 Flash is tied heavily to anti-gravity, and I really do not enjoy anti-gravity 2.0 right now. The CLI has been buggy for me, and the desktop app feels unfinished. GPT 5.5 has a stronger environment through Codex, with browser testing, computer use, and plugins. But in these app building tests, it still did not give me the front-end quality I wanted. Now, pricing makes this comparison even more interesting. In the route that I used, Qwen 3.7 Max costs about 2.50 per million input tokens and 90 per million output tokens. That is a difficult price to justify for a Flash model, when Qwen was faster in my test, produced better results, and is cheaper on output. GPT 5.5 costs $5 per million input tokens and 30 per million output tokens through the API. OpenAI says it is more token efficient than GPT 5.4, and that may be true. But if it costs that much more, I want it to very clearly outperform cheaper models on the tasks I actually do. Here, it did not. So if you ask me which of these three I would use, I would pick Qwen 3.7 Max. It gave me the best front-end results, it was fast, and the pricing makes much more sense for regular iteration. GPT 5.5 comes second for me. If you already use Codex and care more about complex debugging or repository work than front-end generation, it is still a serious option. But for building visual apps, I do not think it justifies the API price over Qwen. Gemini 3.5 Flash comes last. If you can use it for free through anti-gravity, then it is fine to experiment with. But if you are paying for API usage, I cannot recommend it over Qwen based on what I tested. Qwen is faster, cheaper on output, and gave me better working results. So yeah, Qwen 3.7 Max is the clear winner for me in this comparison. Overall, it's pretty cool. Please share your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye.